Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a really fascinating document that asks a question you've probably never even thought to ask. And trust me, the evidence it presents is just as unexpected.
So the big question this whole thing is asking is this: could beings in a spiritual realm actually use technology? I'm not just talking about communicating through feelings or signs, but using actual technical devices to bridge the gap between their world and ours. It's a pretty wild idea, so let's just dive in and see how they try to build their case.
Okay, so to kick things off, the document brings up some stories, what it calls narrative evidence, from the books of a well-known Brazilian medium named Chico Xavier. The claim here is that what people were experiencing weren't just random visions, but interactions with a specific piece of otherworldly tech.
Now, listen to the words they use here. It's not a vision, it's an instrument. And it responds to devotional effort. The idea being put forward is that human intention, human energy, is what's actually powering this thing, causing it to just flare to life with this brilliant blue light.
And it doesn't stop there. It gets really specific. A clairvoyant who was there says they see an individual appear on this screen. And it's not some fuzzy shape, right? It's a clear image of an elder, who even gives his name, Bernardino. This is presented as a direct communication, happening through a device.
And things just keep getting weirder from here. This artist drawing from the source kind of helps you picture the next moment they describe. A messenger named Letitia, who had supposedly passed away 32 years earlier, is said to actually step out of the screen to hug someone in the room.
So, get this, it's not just something they're seeing. The whole experience is described as being totally multisensory. You've got these dazzling visuals, sure, but then there's the distinct smell of lilies that apparently filled the room, a scent coming from this spiritual event. The point here is that this device, whatever it is claimed to affect multiple human senses.
Okay, so we've had the stories. Now the document completely switches gears and brings out what it calls photographic evidence. This is the very strange case of an entity they call Lilla from Mexico, where the proof isn't a story anymore, but actual pictures.
Let's take a look at these images. So according to the document, these are faces and shapes that started appearing in the mist from a humidifier running in a dark room. The argument they're making is that some entity is actually manipulating this water vapor to create a visible image that can be photographed. And so you can see what they're talking about? They put the photos side by side. On the left, that's the raw picture of the vapor. Then on the right, the source has outlined what it says is a face. It's their way of guiding your eye to see the specific anomaly they're claiming is evidence. And they keep them coming. Here's another shot from a different session. This time, a supposed face is forming right above a clock, which at least gives you a sense of scale and where it is in the room. And apparently, this entity could change how it looked. In this photo, the source claims that Lilla showed up in the form of a child, which suggests an ability to, change its own projected image.
But it wasn't just Lilla showing up. After those initial appearances, the source claims that other forms began to materialize in the mist as well. And that, of course, just raises even more questions.
They actually label these other appearances as unknowns. The suggestion seems to be that the main entity, Lilla, was acting as some kind of gateway, almost like she was holding the door open for others to come through and manifest.
And even the source material itself is kind of like, who is this? They literally put a question mark on this image. So these aren't identified spirits, they're just presented as more strange anomalies that were caught on camera during these experiments. So yeah, they show a whole bunch of these pictures, and as you can see, the clarity of the faces really varies, but they're all presented as evidence of this one core phenomenon.
Okay, so we've seen stories, we've seen photos. What's the point of all this? Where is this going? Well, this is where the document tries to connect all these spiritual claims to our own, very real technological progress. And this is where it gets really thought-provoking.
The author makes this really stark contrast. They point out that in 1998, our science was celebrating this incredible achievement, teleporting a single photon. But the stories from Chico Xavier, from decades earlier, were describing the teleportation of entire beings through a screen. The difference in scale is just mind-boggling. And that all leads to the really big, provocative question. What if our own scientific advancements, our screens, our internet, our understanding of physics, what if all of that is just the kindergarten stage? The very first clumsy steps toward a kind of technology that, according to these claims, might already exist somewhere else. And in the end, that's the question the document leaves you with.
It's not giving you any answers. It's just trying to blur that line between what we think of as sci-fi and what it suggests could be a very, very distant but maybe not impossible future for us.
So that wraps up our look at this document. The key takeaway here isn't really about whether you believe the claims or not. It's about how this whole thing challenges you to think differently about technology, communication, and maybe even reality itself. What are the absolute limits of what a device can even be? That's a question worth thinking about.